Now I'm sure everyone who likes... Now I found a user called Thathsmarthotguy, and yeah, he's really not much of the former, and he's not really my type. You know, I prefer men with brains, or at least a good cock. Either one, really. Preferably both. But I'm really not going to play his whole video here, because it's 8 minutes long and pretty much can be summed up as a Gary Johnson-style libertarian circle jerk.
And I am here to tell you that although this tyranny is very, very bad...
Yeah, you're so oppressed by a tyrannical government that you're able to criticize on a high-speed internet webcam that's not really restricted at all. And, yeah, you can do that in what a blind man would call a fashionable sweatshirt. Yeah, why don't you, you know, look up a country like the DPRK, and then come back to me about, you know, government tyranny. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure the DPRK is much, much worse than the U.S. I mean, the U.S. can do shitty things, sure, but, yeah, I mean, when you sit there and say that stuff, all you're doing is insulting the victims of actual tyranny, and, yeah, really, you're just reducing that word to a piece of rhetoric that people like you throw out, you know, so you can flog your cock. And, so people don't think, and so people know the full context, he's talking about the National Defense Authorization Act.
There is one candidate who is standing against it, Gary Johnson.
And here's where we find out whether or not he spits or swallows, metaphorically. And, yeah, I cut out a lot of the beginning of this video, mainly because he just repeats it now when he's, which I have to admit, his ability to talk with a cock shoved deep down his throat is quite amazing, and I wish he'd actually teach me that skill. I mean, I thought it was impressive that I managed to suppress my gag reflex.
He is the Libertarian Party candidate for president, and if you have not heard of him, don't feel too bad. Most Americans haven't, and that is the main roadblock to him being elected.
So it has nothing to do with those beliefs like making Medicare and Medicaid a block grant? You know, things that kind of cause some stir with the Republican Party, let alone some crazy third party no one's ever heard of?
Because I truly believe that if enough Americans know who Gary Johnson is, he will have a real shot at winning, because his views actually line up with the majority of American citizens.
That's a pretty big check that you're writing, and you're not going to be able to cash it. Based on a CBS News poll that literally came out today, Obama has 52% of the vote, roughly. So how exactly can 50 plus 1 then think that Gary Johnson's amazing, when Obama and Gary Johnson would kind of butt heads on quite a bit?
Gary Johnson is the only other presidential candidate who will be on the ballot in November in all 50 states, but that is by far not the only reason to vote for him.
That's not even a reason to vote for him. Number one, you don't need to be on the ballot in all 50 states to actually win the presidency. You just need 270 electoral college votes, I believe, which, to do that, you just need 11 states, I believe. I don't remember them all offhand, but it's like California, Texas, New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, I want to say Michigan, Illinois, North Carolina, just to name a few. Yeah, that doesn't even cover policy. You know, I'm not going to look at a candidate and go, oh, he's on the ballot in all 50 states, he's got my vote.
He is the only candidate who has said that he will not bomb Iran and does not think they are a threat to our national security.
As somebody who holds some pretty bizarre views about Iran, I still have to say, they can be a threat to our national security. Pretty much any government and organization under the right circumstances can be a threat to our national security. Just depends on how you look at it.
He is the only presidential candidate that will end all of these ridiculous foreign wars overseas. He is the only presidential candidate that will stop occupying and invading all of these countries.
You know, the way you make it sound, it's like the United States just spins a big wheel in the morning and says, who are we gonna invade today? Who we're gonna invade? Woohoo! It's East Timor! Let's go, lads! No. Yeah, the U.S., you know, under George W. Bush had a lot of neoconservative policies that weren't that great. But here's the deal. When it comes to the occupations, yeah, some of them are kind of stupid, like the occupation of Germany. I mean, World War II was over a while ago. I mean, we shouldn't have troops there. We really shouldn't have troops, say, in Okinawa. I mean, I think we kind of got done with that a while ago. And, yeah, but when it comes to, say, Afghanistan, I think we should stay there. You know why? Because let's flash back to the 80s when the Soviets pulled out. And, yeah, let's remember that we gave weapons to the Mujahideen. And, yeah, we really didn't fixate on trying to allow them to rebuild. And, yeah, look what happened with the Taliban. It's one of the hallmarks of American foreign policy. We really didn't think long term, especially with the whole, do anything we can to stop the Soviets and contain them.
Whose business is not our business whatsoever, whose business does not affect us whatsoever.
What if Canada, or say a more recognizable one, Saudi Arabia, decided to end exporting oil? That would not affect us at all?
He is the only presidential candidate that wants to stop giving foreign aid.
Foreign aid, first of all, really is not that big of a deal in terms of the budget. Second of all, it's not really just, oh, help me, I'm a poor country, give me money. Sure, here's $1 billion, woohoo! No. Foreign aid can actually be very useful. It often has stipulations like you adopt certain policies. And here's why it can be useful. If you look at what China's doing, China's actually getting involved in a lot of African countries. Why? Because it has resources that it kind of wants and needs. And so when China needs those resources down the line, they can just go to those nations that they buttered up all those years ago. Maybe you should think about that.
He is the only presidential candidate who is against these expansions of the federal government. He is against all of these bureaucracies that are creating all of these laws and regulations that are not only taking away states' rights, but making it harder for people to open small businesses, making so many everyday things criminal, from having a lemonade stand to selling too many rabbits.
Wow, you found a couple of bad regulations. Therefore, all regulations are bad? What's your point? I mean, yeah, we need to end stupid regulations. Cool. What about regulations that prevent child labor or slave labor?
And he's also the only presidential candidate who has taken a firm stance against erosions of our civil liberties, with acts being against acts such as the Patriot Act, NDAA.
Oh yeah, the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. What people complain about in that has been legal since 2001. Guess what month that started in? And, yeah, it's, doesn't call for the indefinite detention of American citizens. It was really overblown. And, if you really need me to elaborate, I will, but it's not that big of a deal.
And really shows that he is going to follow through on everything that he says. He doesn't flip-flop like the other two major party candidates.
Sorry, I'd rather vote for a dishonest half-wit than a honest lack-wit.
He was governor of the state of New Mexico for 8 years, and during those 8 years, he performed more vetoes than all other 49 governors combined. And
that doesn't mean anything apart from the fact that he likes to use these. I mean, what policy did he veto? Was it good policy? Was it bad policy? What? It just means he likes to use his veto pen.
He was one of only 4 governors at the time to leave office with a budget surplus.
And Bill Clinton also left office with a budget surplus. But, you're not really going to be making a video defending him now, are you? But, yeah. A balanced budget and all that doesn't necessarily mean you did well in terms of leading the country, any of those things. It doesn't mean you had good policy. It doesn't mean anything. It just meant you have a balanced budget. It's not an argument. It's just a fact.
And finally, I would like to address the argument that some people make, which goes something like this. They say, oh, I like Gary Johnson. I think he's a great guy, but a vote for Gary Johnson is really just a vote for Obama. Or it's really just a vote for Romney. I've heard it from both sides, which is ridiculous because 1, Gary Johnson takes votes from both sides, and 2, a vote for Gary Johnson isn't a vote for Obama or a vote for Romney. A vote for Gary Johnson is a vote for Gary Johnson.
Now, I'll wait till November 6th to determine whether or not that's true and he's a confounder in the election or not. Here's why, when it comes to the second part, I would say that, and a lot of people would say that. Let's say Gary Johnson gets a lot of his votes from people who otherwise would have voted for Romney. That is less votes that Romney has now, because they're voting for a third-party candidate that has no shot at winning. So Obama has where his main competitor, the main person that has a shot at winning apart from him, now has less voters because they're diverted to this third-party loser. So, yeah, that's why they say that. Romney has less votes to work with, but Obama has the same amount.
And I hope that if you agree with my message, and you really want to see Gary Johnson and more Liberty candidates elected, that you will share this video with as many people as possible.
Oh yeah, you've done a wonderful job with the video that's getting less than 100 views.
I am in no way affiliated with Gary Johnson's campaign.
So let me get this straight. You don't have anything to do with his campaign. Here's why you're at least an idiot on this. Assuming somehow I am wrong about everything else and I'm a complete dipshit. Here's why you're an idiot. When it comes to voting, in a presidential election, your vote is pretty much meaningless by itself. I think the chance of you directly impacting a presidential election is 1 times 10 to the 12th power with one singular vote. Now, this is why I donate money to the candidate I would like to win, and I have since I'm now able to vote, and this is actually the first election I can vote in, because I couldn't vote in the primaries as a registered independent. I actually volunteered for Obama. Why? Because one of the things I actually got to do was actually to help register people to vote. And so every person I register to vote, that could be one more vote for Obama. Maybe some of them might vote for Romney or might vote third party or not vote at all. But there's a chance that I've now given Obama one more voter because I actually gave him time and actually helped influence the election more. And so you have Gary Johnson, a man who his current fundraising goal is $1 million, I think it was, when I first looked at his website, which is pittance compared to what Obama and Romney have. Certainly Romney. And, yeah, you're just an idiot. If you really want Gary Johnson to win in November, I'd recommend you donate a lot of money, whatever you can afford, and you start volunteering for him, making phone calls. Don't sit on your ass on, your webcam, joining your little group of fringe friends and jerking each other off.
I don't intend to profit off of this video whatsoever.
So, Maoist Rebel News 2, a YouTube user who's a communist, profits off his videos, but that Thathsmarthotguy, a libertarian, doesn't want to profit off his videos? What kind of world am I living in?